God gave a child to Adam and Eve. This child they named Seth. Other sons and daughters were given to Adam and Eve as they lived many years. But at last they died, as God had said they must die, because they had eaten of the tree that God had forbidden to eat. By the time that Adam died, there were many men and women on the earth already, for the children of Adam and Eve had many other children also. These men and women and children lived in tents. They owned sheep, cattle, and they moved anywhere wherever they could find pasture. The children played around the tent doors, and sat beside the campfires in the evenings, where they all sang together and the older people told them stories. And after a time the land began to be full of people. It is sad to tell that as time went on, more and more of these people became unrighteous, and fewer became good. All the people lived near together, and few went away to other lands. So it came to pass that even the children of good people learned to be bad, and no longer did right. And as God looked down on the world that he had made, he saw how people doing bad, and that every thought and every act of people was evil. But while most of the people in the world were doing evil, there were some good people also, but they were few. The best of all the men who lived at that time was a man whose name was Enoch. Enoch did only what was right. He walked with God and God walked with him, and talked with him, when Enoch was a very old man and weary with life. God took him away from earth to heaven. All the people in the time of Enoch were not shepherds. Some of them had learned how to make arrows, axes and plows. And after a long time they melted iron. They made knives, swords and dishes to use in their homes. They sowed grain in the fields, reaped harvests, and they planted vines and fruit trees. But God looked down on the earth and said, I will take away all people from the earth that I have made, because they are unrighteous, and do evil continually. But even in those bad times God saw one good man. His name was Noah. Noah tried to do right in the sight of God. As Enoch had walked with God, so Noah walked with God also. Noah had 3 sons, the names were Shem, and Ham, and Japheth. God said to Noah, the time has come when all the people on the earth will be destroyed. Everyone must die, because they are all unholy. But you and your family shall be saved, because you are alone trying to do right. Then God told Noah how he might save his life and the lives of his sons. God told Noah to build a very large boat, as large as the largest ships that are made in time, very wide, deep with a roof over it, like house in 3 stories and float on the water. Such ship was called Ark. God told Noah to build this ark, and to have it ready for the time when he need it. God said to Noah, I am going to bring a great flood of water on the earth to cover all the land and to drown all the people on the earth. The animals on the earth will be drowned with the people also. You must make the ark large enough to hold a pair of each kind of animals that are needed by people. You must take in the ark food for yourself and your family, and for all the animals while the flood shall stay on the earth. And Noah did what God told him to do, although it must have seemed very strange to all the people around to build this great ark, where there was no water for it to sail upon. This ship was so big that Noah and his sons were at work building the ark. God had told them to build while the unrighteous people around them wondered and laughed at Noah for building a great ship where there was no sea. The ark was finished and stood like a great house on the land. There was a door on one side and window on the roof to let in the light. Then God said to Noah, Come into the ark, you and your wife, your 3 sons and their wives with them, for the flood of waters will come very soon. Take with you the animals of all kinds and kept alive. So Noah and his wife and his 3 sons with their wives went into the ark. And God brought to the door of the ark all kind of animals. Noah and his sons put 'em in their places and brought 'em enough food to feed 'em all. Then the door of the ark was shut and no more people and no more animals could come inside. In a few days the rain began to fall as it had never rained before. It seemed that heavens were open to pour great floods. The streams filled and the rivers rose higher and higher. The ark began to float on the water. The people left their houses and ran up to the hills, but soon the hills were covered and all the people on them were drowned. Some had climbed up to the tops of higher mountains, but the water rose higher and higher, even the mountains were covered and all the people and animals on earth were drowned. For 40 days and nights the rain kept falling until there was no breath of life remaining outside of the ark. After 40 days the rain stopped, but the water stayed upon the earth for more than 6 months, the ark with all that were floated over the great sea that covered the land. Then God sent a wind to blow over the waters to dry them up, and the waters grew less and less, the mountains rose above the waters, then the hills, and finally the ark ceased to float and lay on ground. But Noah could not see what had happened on the earth, because the door was shut, and the only window open was up in the roof. But he felt that the ark was no longer moving. He knew that the water must have gone down. After waiting for a time, Noah opened a window and let loose a bird called a raven. The raven has strong wings, and this raven flew round and round until the waters had gone down. After Noah had waited for a while, he sent out a dove, but the dove could not find any place to rest, so it flew back to the ark and Noah took it into the ark again. Then Noah waited a week longer, afterward he sent out the dove again. At the evening, the dove came back to the ark with the fresh leaf it had picked off from an olive tree. So Noah knew that the water had gone down and enough to let the trees grow again. He waited another week and sent out the dove again, but this time the dove flew away and never came back. Noah knew that the earth was becoming dry again. So he took off a part of the roof and looked out. He saw that there was dry land all around the ark and the waters were no longer everywhere. Noah had now lived in the ark a little more longer. He was glad to see the green land and the trees once more. God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark with your wife and sons with their wives and all the living things that are with you in the ark." So Noah opened the door of the ark with his family, came out and all the animals, and began again to bring life to the earth. The first thing that Noah did when he came out of the ark was to give thanks to God for saving all his family when the rest of the people on the earth were destroyed. He built an altar for offering to the Lord. He gave himself and his family to God and promised to do God's will. And God was pleased with Noah's offering, and God said, "I will not again destroy the earth, no matter how bad they may be. From this time no flood shall again cover the earth, but the seasons of spring and summer and fall and winter shall remain without change. I give to you the earth, you shall be the rulers of the ground and of every living thing upon it." Then God caused a rainbow to appear in the sky, and he told Noah and his sons that whenever they see the rainbow they should remember that God had placed it in the sky as a sign of his promise. So as often as we see the beautiful rainbow, we are to remember that it is the sign of God's promise to the world.
So can a story of our past can be a message of our future. As God said in Joshua chapter 1 verse 9 and Matthew chapter 6 verse 34. Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own.